Okay, a technique we learned in Algebra 2, which you two haven't learned yet, but you would have hopefully seen the video, is called completing the square. It's a way to create a perfect square trinomial that factors like this. So x squared plus 2ax plus a squared would be x plus a, the quantity squared. Right? Going back to our shortcut for squaring the binomial, square the first, double the product, square the second. So if you see a square, a double product, and a square, so ax are the square roots of these two things double, basically. You're looking at a perfect square trinomial. If you only have the x squared and x terms, you can create a perfect square trinomial very easily. And the way you do it is you look at this coefficient, whatever it is, and you have to do two things to it. Number one, take half of it. Number two, square that value. So half of 10 is 5, and 5 squared is 25. And just like that, you get a perfect square trinomial. All right? If that number happens to be odd, create a fraction, then like let's say, I don't know, let's say x squared plus 3x is happening. Half of 3 is 3 halves. 3 halves squared is 9 fourths. All right? As far as factoring this is concerned then, the square root of x squared is x, the square root of 25 is 5, the sign of this is plus, and you square it. Or just 5 times 5, 5 plus 5, right? So x plus 5 squared. All right, this would be x plus 3 halves squared. Looking back at the equation of a circle, notice they have that structure, that binomial squared structure. So again, it's a way of creating a standard form of the equation of a circle so that we can identify very easily the center and radius of the circle that would allow us to then graph that circle. So that's kind of where we're going with this. So, looking at this problem, it says find the center and radius of the circle that's given by this. On the homework, they might even say graph the circle. All right, so I'll go ahead and graph the circle on this also. First thing you want to do is you're trying to create this structure. X minus h, the quantity squared, plus y minus k, the quantity squared, is equal to r squared. That's what you're trying to create. So, if I'm trying to create that structure, I want my x's in a position, I want my y's in a position, I want my numbers in a position. So I'm going to create this structure out of this by grouping up my x's together, leaving a little bit of space. Then I take my y's, leave a little bit of space, and then I'm going to take my constant to the other side. Okay? So x is grouped together, leave a gap, y is grouped together, leave a gap, equals number. It doesn't matter what the number is at this point, it'll change. All right? Now what I'm trying to create again is a binomial squared structure, which requires me to have a perfect square trinomial. So I have to add a magical number here. So half of 6 is 3 and 3 squared is 9. We always add. It's always plus. Because whether it's positive 3 or negative 3, you're multiplying it by itself, so you're going to get a positive out of it. If I want to put a plus 9 on the left of the equation, I have to put a plus 9 on the right of the equation. All right? So modifications allowed, just modify both the same. Doing the same technique here with the y's, half of 4 is 2 and 2 squared is 4, so plus 4 goes there. As a consequence, I have to put a plus 4 over here. So I've created now a perfect square trinomial for x, which factors to x minus 3 squared. Okay, hopefully there's no thinking involved here, it's just real simple. It's a square root, and a sign. The binomial is always made up of the two square roots of the perfect square outside pieces and the sign in the middle piece, the parentheses squared. Always plus. My second parentheses have to do with y, square root, sign is going to be y plus 2 squared. And my number, all this stuff adds up to 16. It adds up to whatever it is. In this case, 16. Doesn't always end up being a nice perfect square like 16. It could be 15 or 23. It doesn't matter. It's going to be some number. It has to be what it is. All right. So once you get to this point, now we're in standard form. We're in this mode right here. All right. The center is going to be the opposite sign, So positive 3, negative 2. The radius is going to be the square root of that number. In this case, it has an exact square root of 4. If you're supposed to graph, go ahead and approximate the decimal value. If it was, let's square root of 15, 3.91 or whatever that would be, 3.87, I don't know, somewhere in there. Approximate the value and then go about 3.87 over and over and up and up. All right, up and down. But again, this is the information they asked me for. And again, for what they asked me to do, that's all they asked me to do. They didn't ask me to graph it. If they do ask you to graph it, what's left to do then is to plot this point and use the radius to find 4 more points, connect the 4 dots. So if I go on to a new page here, some graph paper out. Let me look at my work here. You draw an x-axis and y-axis like you usually would. All right. My center is 3, -2, so here's my x-axis, here's my y-axis. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, that's my center. And the radius is 4, which tells me to go 4 spaces away from the center in all directions. The easiest directions to go are 1, 2, 3, 4 up, 1, 2, 3, 4 right, 1, 2, 3, 4 down, 1, 2, 3, 4 left. It's just a matter of counting. To go 4 diagonally, you kind of have to figure out exactly what the hypotenuse of a right triangle being 4, which doesn't have a nice thing like that, so you can't do that. And then connect that with as circular a thing as you can. Kind of go flat and then turn. That's how a circle arc is being made. A lot of people go too quickly. As long as it's curvy and looks pretty close to a circle, I'm not going to count off for art here. That's a typical what I see on papers when they're with freehand, because I just drew it freehand. If you have cool drawing tools like a compass, or you have this circle tool like I have, you can get a nice, perfect circle, like so. That's fine too. What I drew is pretty close, not quite. What's in blue there will be sufficient, in my opinion, for a graph of a circle. All right. So keep that in mind. If it asks for center and radius, stop there. If it asks you to actually graph it, you have to find the center and radius to graph it. Then that's how you graph it. Plot the center, use the radius to go all 4 directions, connect the dots as smoothly as you can. Do not go through the center, only the outside 4.